welcome to Tech Latest from Nikkei Asia, where we bring you the freshest updates from the technology sector in Asia. I'm your host, Katey Creel, and in this week's episode, we're talking to Chief Tech Correspondent Annie Cheng Ting-Fang in Taipei about the island's vital undersea cables. Welcome to the show, Annie.
Thank you so much for having me back, Katey.
It's great to have you. I feel like it's been a while since you and I have been on the same episode.
Yes.
So, as mentioned, we're talking today about undersea cables and how Taiwan is working very hard to protect them, including with new laws and more patrols by its Coast Guard. But before we get to the dramatic part of our story, Annie, can you tell us a bit about these cable networks and why they're so important to modern economies?
Yes, exactly. These subsea cables are really the backbone of our global communications. Think of them like many giant snakes laying quietly on the ocean floor and stretching anywhere from just a few kilometers to tens of thousands kilometers, linking nations and even continents together. So this network these networks carry more than 95% of the world's internet traffic. Everything from
It's
your
amazing.
emails and from the video calls, internet browsing, searching to online banking. So for islands like Taiwan and Japan, they are the vital lifelines keeping all these like islands linking to the outside world. And for like city states like Singapore, subsea cables are also absolutely critical for staying connected globally.
I see. And that figure, 95%, is amazing. That's almost the entire amount of communications. So, the subsea cables as a topic is something you're quite familiar with from at least a year or two ago when you and your colleague Lolly Lee did a really great deep dive on how China is making inroads into the subsea cable supply chain. How did you two come across that topic, and what made you decide that this was something you wanted to really do an investigative report on?
Our analysis actually showed that subsea cables are more than technology. It's beyond technology. They are really an extension of a diplomacy race. It's not only about whose tech is more advanced, but also about relationships between nations. Right now, there are only a few major players building all these world's subsea cables. Subcom from the US, ASM from Europe, NEC from Japan, and HMN Tech from China. These are also there are also some smaller emerging players like Fiber Home, YOFC. But here's the key point: unlike like advanced semiconductors, where U.S. export controls can hold back China for years, in subsea cables, China already has its own self-sufficient supply chain and the ability to build its critical communication infrastructure, and then also can help other nations build subsea cables. So in Asia, China's top telecom carriers such as China Mobile, China Telecom, and China Unicom are really heavily investing in new cables. Projects in like Asia Link Cable, Asia Direct Cable, and the SEA H2X are connecting China or Hong Kong with multiple countries in Southeast Asia. And also a notable one that just about to come online this year or next is China's biggest subsea cable builder, HMN Tech, is also helping the Cambodian government lay new cables linking directly China and Cambodia.
Oh, very interesting. So your image of the snakes lying quietly under the sea is, very evocative, but it's also a lot of activity going on under the sea, under the waves.
Exactly. A lot of like geopolitical wrestling.
Absolutely, yeah. And I imagine where the cables land, where they connect, not just where they go through, but who hosts the landing points is also such a fraught topic these days.
Yes.
So your most recent feature also looks at subsea cables and geopolitics, but from a slightly different angle. So this year, just a few months, Taiwan has experienced a spike in the cases of cables being damaged.
Mhm.
So, how does Taipei view these incidents, and what are the authorities doing in response?
Actually, we spoke with an officer named Ran Zhongqing from Taiwan's patrol fleet, PP 10097. He recalled one dramatic night this past February in Taiwan's southwest waters. The crew was battling like rough seas because it was very dark that night in the cold winter and the huge waves and strong winds.
Wow.
When in the darkness, they spot a suspicious ship that had been hanging around already for days. And just as about they close in on that vessel, the Hong Tai
Mhm.
58, and they got reports came in that a subsea cable right beneath them had been disrupted. So at
Like a
first, the
movie.
crew yeah. So like at first, the crew tried to be try to board that suspicious vessel, but the weather was made it impossible, and the gap between the two ships was too dangerous. So later, they still managed to bring back the Hong Tai 58 back to the port the next day because with the help of a bigger vessel. And this Hong Tai 58 was really interesting because though it was registered in Tonga of Africa, the captain and the
Oh,
crew were all Chinese nationals. This became the first case where a captain actually later was indicted for trying to damage subsea cables. And then Captain Wang of the Hong Tai 58 was sentenced 3 years in prison. And we also spoke with another exclusive interview with director Xie Jingqin of the Coast Guard Fleet Branch. And he kind of stressed that kind of gray zone disruptions or activities might be need to really taken seriously because even ships are registered as fishing use or commercial use, but they could still be like support military operations. They can
mm.
support blockades. They can support cutting cables. They can even help mapping the seabed for future conflict.
Oh, wow.
So that's why this case is really something that really like raised serious attention in Taiwan.
And it must be very hard to monitor and kind of react to these from the Coast Guard point of view because if I'm not mistaken, the Strait of Taiwan's very busy. There's lots of ships, and it's just a big area to surveil and keep under control.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually one of the busiest like ocean areas every month. So it's very difficult to really spot those suspicious vessels. But with the help of some international organizations, uh, uh, they did identify some suspicious vessels, like 96 of them. A lot of them are registered in a lot of nations that is far away. These vessels are registered like with Mongolia or Tonga or other African nations, but they are operating close to Asia Pacific. But these vessels are under like high alert. And then also the incident I just mentioned is really a reminder of how fragile and how strategically important subsea cables really are. And until August, so far, Taiwan has some 7 incidents of this kind of subsea cable disruptions. Of course, some of them are related to natural aging of the cables, but some are linked to these like suspicious ships that I just described.
In addition to the stepped up patrols and trying to monitor more closely, what else has Taiwan done to try and protect its cables from like a legal standpoint? I think they've passed some, or they're drafting a new law.
Yes, they are drafting some new laws to because previously it's quite like challenging for any countries, not only Taiwan, to track down or protect these subsea cables, because these subsea cables are sometimes very long. For example, it can link from Japan to Hong Kong to Taiwan, also to Southeast Asia like Singapore, Philippines, Vietnam. But if there is a disruption in some connects, then the whole cable could be, and the communication between areas to areas can be disrupted. And also there are a lot of like which sea areas belongs to you. For example, there are like your own like jurisdiction of the sea areas that you have control, but there are like international sea zones that you don't have control. So if actually you spot a ship that cut cables inside your territory, but they can like suddenly go away into the international sea zones, then you have no jurisdiction over that ship. You cannot go there and then get them back. So
Oh,
you
that's
need to be
very
lucky as
frustrating.
well. Yes.
Right. Wow. Really dramatic trying to chase down these ships that are damaging cables. And you've already mentioned, again, the 95% of global data is carried by these cables, and they're vital for economic connections and the health of any nation's economy. Is this getting even more important with the growth of AI, as we've seen a lot of AI data centers being built across the region? Is this having any kind of effect on subsea cables?
Yes, I think when I was in Singapore in early September, I made a friend who works in the subsea cable industry, and he told me they are planning a new cable that will run from Southeast Asia to India. Because there are so many new data centers are being built, also in India as well, because of the supply chain shift, more cables and more demands are coming. So this is a bigger trend. We'll see more cables going into places like India or like Malaysia when the demand for data centers also keep growing. And then having more subsea cables and the landing points isn't just about internet speed anymore. It's also about strategy, because countries see it as part of the race to lead in AI computing, which depends on building and connecting huge data centers around the world. So right now, from our analysis, we find that Singapore and Japan are leading in Asia in new cables, either under construction or about to go live. And Guam, a U.S. island in the Pacific, is also becoming an important hub for U.S. bound cables. That's partly because some investors want to avoid the routes through South China Sea, Hong Kong, or even Taiwan, given the risk of like conflict. So
Right. So geopolitics really is driving.
yes, yes. So I want to say that because cable is not only like communication and critical infrastructure, it could be very political now. And the projects
Absolutely.
can be delayed very easily. One example is the SJC2 cable. Actually, it's a very long cable. It was announced back in 2018 to connect South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, China, Vietnam, Thailand, and Singapore. But it
Wow.
only became fully operational this July. So you can see, because normally it only take 2 3 years to
7
build a
years?
cable.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, delays came of course from COVID, also from a lot of like authorities permit issues. You need to get permits to dock on a certain territory, and also the fact of both U.S. and the Chinese companies were investors in the same cable also caused some delays. So this show
Right.
that how subsea cables aren't just about technology, they are about a lot of politics and geopolitical race as well.
Thank you so much, Annie. This is such a fascinating topic, and I think one that we could keep talking about for hours. And I'm really looking forward to your next deep dive on this topic. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Katey. And I'm looking forward to speaking very soon.
That's all for this week's episode. We'll be taking a short break next week, but we'll be back the following week. In the meantime, for more of Nikkei Asia's tech coverage, visit asia.nikkei.com. You can also subscribe to our weekly Tech Asia newsletter, which will be delivered to your inbox every Thursday. Thanks again for listening, and check back with us next week for more updates on the tech trends that matter.